wonder if we can.
Whatever.
Am I doing Facebook Live, man?
Y'all, my computer's steadily dying. I'm out here in this parking lot. We got
Oh, for real?
30% left before it's on 89%. I started at 99. You know.
Let's make it happen.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do this thing then. So, everybody, welcome to Street Academy Podcast. This has been a long time coming. I'm one of the co-hosts, Jonathan Grant. These are the other two, Amber K and Dr. Hater, in the building. So y'all go get all the inside jokes later. As if you keep following, we're gonna be doing this. Something, man. We just trying, man. We just trying this thing out, and I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail about why we're doing it now in a second. But before I do that, I'm gonna just give the other two co-hosts just a chance to kind of introduce themselves and say whatever they want to say. Oh, sorry, I got a bottle. Clearly.
Amber, you want to go?
No, you can go. Okay. I'm going to use whatever model you do.
Okay. Well, I'm Jackie. And as John said, Dr. Hater. He's also Dr. Hater. But the things I love to hate on most are racism, sexism, oppression. I hate on those all day, every day.
Hey.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, we're doing it like that. Great. Okay. So my name is Amber Camila. I guess I haven't made it to the level of being a Dr. Hater. I hope that one day that I can achieve this kind of degree. It's the only kind of degree that I might formally recognize later in my life.
You don't want to be a hater. You don't want to be.
But you know what I will say? I'm a doctor anti-establishment. So I think that's just me in general. So Dr. AE, we could do that or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what sticks. But let's see. I have a passion for liberation of the minds, the hearts, and the spirits of primarily people of the African diaspora. Mm-hmm. But and outside of them, sure.
Sure, we can add them in later.
Absolutely, but I'm becoming more and more impassioned for my people, and so I'm excited to be a part of this conversation with these two brilliant minds, right there and right there.
Yeah.
Yo, this is crazy. And you'll find out more and more about us, I think, as we, again, as you follow us and what we're doing and what we got going. And I'll put it this way. These two Black Girl Magics right here have incredible resumes. I'm not going to embarrass them, though. I'm going to let them just unveil anything they want to unveil about themselves as it moves forward. But just know you in the presence of greatness when you with these sisters. And so, I'm just.
And the same with our brother John right here. The same.
Same. You really know me. You know I'm a mess. I'm a hot mess.
That's the thing. It's we have a dual existence. You can both be a mess and be brilliant.
We live 3-dimensional lives. So.
I feel more of a mess than brilliant. But I do what I can, use what I can to make whatever impact I can make. So so I'm really excited about this. So it's well, I guess the first thing I should do is tell you what Street Academy Podcast is. And so when I was in school, one of my mottos when I would go to class and things like that, and just trying to achieve success in higher education, it was always good to keep one foot in the academy and one foot in the street. And so when we talk about the academy, what we're talking about is, universities, colleges, higher education, that sort of thing. And I don't know, I just always felt it was important to be there, but then also be out in the streets and listen to what people are saying, you know what I mean? What people are talking about. And that they should inform each other. You know what I'm saying? Like these two entities should inform each other. So that was just always my motto as I was going through taking my classes and doing the projects and doing the things that I needed to do. So then I met up with these two sisters, and I can let y'all talk more about how we linked up and how we got together and what that led to. But really what ended up happening was when we decided to do this, I was just trying to kind of think of a name for it and what to do. And that came back to me, was my motto, one foot in the academy, one foot in the streets. And for me, it was always about making sure that conversations in the streets, what was happening in the barbershops, in the hair salons, in the churches, in people's dining room tables, at the clubs, at the trap houses, on the corners, in the driveways. What these conversations are happening should inform our theories in the academy. It should inform what we think and what we write, and how we conceptualize and contextualize ideas around race and class and gender and sex and politics and all of that. At the same time, we should then take the things that we learn, our scientific approaches to things, and we should use that to help couch a lot of the conversations that's had in the streets into something that's organized that we can put into a theory, and then use that to push our society forward and move towards Black liberation. And so I think it was Asada Shakur, Angela Davis, one of them, talked about the importance of theory and praxis. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we hear conversations about, just people just spewing out ideas, but it's not actually, couched in any type of scientific research and study, something that can hold fast, something that can be proven, or something that's been studied. So I just kind of want to blend these two conversations. And so that's what you'll hear a lot with our conversations with these podcasts, with this podcast. Somebody said it sounded like an academic breakfast club. I was like,
maybe so.
I one of my friends, she was like, that sounds like an academic breakfast club. I'm down with that. So I was like, all right, I'm cool with it. So yeah. So also, you might not see all three of us all the time because we all have different schedules. But if it's not all three of us, it'll be one of us or two of us. And, we might have somebody else, and we might be interviewing somebody who's also what we say a part of the Street Academy, which is they have their professional lives and what they're doing, whether it be they're in the academy, in the university, or they could be, or just any type of professional life that they got going on. But then also looking at how they are, using that to on the grassroots level, on the street level, and how they're also practicing Street Academy in terms of using their professionalism to inform what they're doing out in the streets. And so we'll be interviewing people, professors, musicians, doctors, lawyers, all different types of people, activists, just regular, people, just common folk, blue collar workers, whatever. We're just gonna be talking to health workers, all different types of people. The plan was to do this kind of together because of COVID, and we want to make sure everybody's safe. We decided to initiate this through Zoom, and then, once all this is over, you'll see us all together and just doing our thing. So, yeah, I think that's does that provide a good kind of?
A good foundation, brother.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah.
That was good.
Cool. So yeah, talk a little bit about how we came together, and then we'll go right into the topic for the day.
Man, I mean, we all crossed paths here in Atlanta, and then for the past few years, two of us have been away.
Right.
I was out in the Midwest, Amber was up north, and it's interesting because we continued to have conversations about the things that we were seeing that were strikingly similar in these three different locations: Atlanta, Midwest, Northeast, but we're like nuanced in interesting ways. And now we're back all together in Atlanta, trying to push the conversation forward continuously. So here we are.
Yeah.
That was it. And I guess formally we could also say that we met through, I think that in some way we met through church groups. I think, well, no, John, I met you back at Oakwood, HBCU. Jonathan Grant was the president of an organization of anarchists on campus called Art and Soul. Anarchists / weirdos, kind of weirdos, not too weird. And I just so happened to join that group, and John was my president, and so we maintained contact, which is beautiful. And then I met Jackie through church stuff some kind of way in Atlanta, and then I think we also maintained contact in Atlanta more while we were there, and before Jackie and I split off into our respective places where we really learned a thing or two about whiteness.
So I wanted the first episode to just kind of talk about, maybe be something light or just kind of, fun or whatever as we transition into all the serious stuff. But y'all see what's happening. Y'all see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, you know what better time to start than now? At first I was like, man, let's just do this. Let's wait until we can all be together after COVID. And I was like, nah. I thought about Petey Green, you know what I'm saying, in the 60s and during the riots, after King was murdered up in DC and how he just got on the microphone, you know what I mean, got on the radio and just started talking and using his voice to help bring a voice to the anger of the people at that time. And so I just feel like that's the spirit of what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? The spirit of, of Petey Green, the spirit of, Anna Julia Cooper, the spirit of Breonna Taylor, the spirit of George Floyd, you know what I'm saying? W.B. Du Bois and Patricia Hill Collins and I don't know, whoever else y'all want to say, you know what I'm saying? That's just kind of the spirit of why we doing what we doing, you know what I'm saying? And so we was like, you know what? It ain't never gonna be no perfect time. Let's just go ahead and just start now. Let's just start these episodes and this podcast and this conversation. And so with that said, as y'all already know, it's been crazy, particularly here in Atlanta. It's been crazy. A couple days with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and that's just a small, it's just so many others. You know what I'm saying? It's not just even about that, but just about decades and decades and really centuries of oppression. And so we just gonna talk about it and discuss it. So how y'all feeling? Let's get into it.
I mean, for me, even when you just started saying like we're here in the spirit of all of those individuals, and I just started thinking about, and you said like, what other people do you want to add? I mean, it's just so many. It's so many in terms of those who have been lost, those who have been working on this for many, many decades. So like, you think about Malcolm or you think about Fannie Hammer, who had like all those before us, and like Du Bois or like all of the greats, right? They've been talking about this for the last 100-something years, or like Frederick Douglass or whoever else, right? And then you have still the people who we, times have evolved, and now we have hashtags to talk about these same things, and how many hashtags we've experienced most recently. And it just really just struck me even in that moment, thinking about all of the names like Sandra Bland, right? You could just name so many, Freddie Gray, Trayvon Martin. And it's just like, we are here as the collective, like we aren't separate. And I think when I think about being Black in America, and even using the term Black, but that's a whole nother conversation, but being Black in America, an American ideal is individualism, and individualism is also a crucial characteristic of white supremacy culture. And that is like not who we are as a people. Like, we are connected. We are people who feel, and we are a collective, and we stand as a collective. And I think I'm struck by the collective grief that we feel this time. I feel like the pandemic was just like, we don't have the emotional capacity to try to act like this shit is okay this time. We're already going through all this pandemic stuff. It's just like the emotional capacity is not here. We're boiling. We're done. And I feel like it was like the timing of this couldn't have been, I think, I don't know if it was cosmic. I don't know, but it's just like, I can understand why at this point we're like, we can't take it. And I can understand why people are going to the streets, because it's too much to be mad about. Even when it comes to the pandemic, and just, I think it's really unveiled the enormous gap, the enormous wealth gap in this country. And I think it's also unveiled the enormous hypocrisy in this country to all of a sudden begin to call what people have mostly considered up until this point the lower echelon of society. Now you want to call them the essential workers. And so it's just like, it's this hypocritical moment. It's such a hypocritical moment. So now we're essential, but then you still don't treat us as essential workers. You still don't give us the respect of people who are really important you know, and are making sure that this whole thing is still running. So you still don't treat us like that. So it's like, I know people who worked in grocery stores or work in the mail services area, and it's just like supervisors don't talk about it at all. Didn't talk about COVID for a long time.
That's right.
Didn't talk about safety gear. It's just as though nothing happened. It's just though it's like, and it's just like, are these the essential workers? But we're still not even getting the respect and the acknowledgement that there's a pandemic happening and that we're continuing to go to work and that, you know, we're like pressing through. And so I feel like, you know, all of these different things have just bubbled inside of Black America. And it's just like, George Floyd was just like, you cannot have us working this hard and maintaining America in a sense. Not saying that all Black people in America are essential workers, but a lot of us are. But to say you can't be literally like, we are pushing forward on this thing, like we're keeping the country together, and then you literally put a boot on our neck, you put your knee on our neck, and do it with peace in your heart. So that officer, I think that was the thing that struck me. It's just like, that's the hypocrisy. It's just like, it literally that image. And I hate that, like, even though I respect artists and all that kind of stuff, I hate that that's the it seems like that's the image that people are duplicating or like and continue to emulate in artistic ways. And I just hate the fact that that's it with George Floyd's face on the ground and the officer's knee in his back. But that could not be a more like fitting depiction of America. Like, there is death, there is hurting, and yet there's peace at the same time. That man had peace on his face.
He was right.
It was nothing in his face that rendered suffering or care or anything. And that's what struck me. He was just like, his hand was in his pocket. Are you kidding me? And this is the same thing that's happening, where it's just like, you see the pandemic happening and you have all these essential workers, people are hurting, people losing their jobs. And then you have celebrities posting from their mansions and saying like, oh yeah, we with you. And it's just like, I know you are, but so we kind of can't relate.
we ain't in the same.
We're not in the same thing. And then when you have just this wealth gap, and just like, it's just like, it's two Americas. When you think about the results of this last election and the last main election, and presidential election, and you see like these different Americas, like people think that like, wait, can these things coexist? Absolutely. I know I said a lot, but that's what just hit me in that moment.
I love how you brought together that race and class piece, because it's the intersection of those things where you talked about the essential workers, but then are they really essential? Because a lot of the blue collar workers are going to be Black people. And this because my dad works for UPS, and while everybody's off, while they're letting people work from home and stuff, I remember he would come home and he'd be like, they just want their packages.
Exactly.
He ain't worried about none of this. And at first it was kind of, and we kind of laughed it off, but as you're talking, it made me think like, they don't care about my pops. They don't care about nobody else that's working at UPS. They are not essential workers. They are it's another time.
Dispensable.
That's
okay.
Dispensable.
Thesaurus, A.
Yeah. Actually, and when I get offline, I'm gonna tell you why every time I hear that word, I think about you, and I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, I know exactly.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay. I'm gonna tell you, Jackie. I don't want to put every business out like that.
I was a young whippersnapper back then.
You was angry.
I was angry.
But
I can't wait to hear this story.
Yeah. But yeah, dispensable. You know what I'm saying? And so, and again, but for white folks, America is dispensable just in terms of class. For white, poor, and working class people. For Black people, we are dispensable both in race and class. We don't need you.
Mercy.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Really don't need you as blue collar workers. And we don't really want or need you here as a race. Right?
Not at all.
And so when you talked about that knee on that neck, that is for real. Like, that is exactly how Black people have been feeling for so long. And so when it burst into protest, You know what I'm saying?
I think in this case, it's like there are people who are in power. And so it kind of reminds me, what was that show on Oxygen Network where it's like Snapped? It's called Snapped.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, typically it's like women who were with spouses or like abusive partners or like something that was happening where there was like, it seems like there was somebody in power. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, finally there's this build up. And it's just like, the niggas, they killed them. Okay, they killed them or they chopped up their body or something like that. And I honestly feel like
killed them in like a grotesque
way. And it's just like white America has not seen Black people snap, and we have not snapped as a collective. But I feel like even now. And I remember, was it John? You told me, I don't know, but I remember someone saying like there was a white friend that they had or somebody, and they were like, you know why white people are really scared of Black people? Because like deep in their heart, but they're not going to say it. It's because if we did this, if it was y'all who did this to us, we would have been done some stuff. Right. So we're waiting for y'all to finally like go there with us. But we're not going to say that, but we're kind of afraid of it. And that's what's happening. It's the bully on the playground, but it's also like it's this snapped moment where it's just like, yo, something's about to get burned down all the way, like entire cities. And I know I'm not trying to go there, but you know.
The mainstream media is talking about how all of this is centered around George Floyd. But for all of us, we're thinking about Ahmaud Arbery, we're thinking about Breonna Taylor, we're thinking about so many Black bodies that have been disposable to white America for a long time. We're even thinking about Christian Cooper and how Amy Cooper wielded her white woman power to try to end this man's life,
right?
In a very calculated way. And we're thinking about how that sort of interaction happens with all of us in our workplaces, in our schools, in the grocery store. You know, how white people wield this power to try to make attempts on our lives every day, in addition to the police antagonizing and brutalizing us in different settings. So this isn't just about one person. Like, this goes back not only in the modern few years and decades about police brutality, but going back centuries of racial abuse that we continue to feel the effects of to this day.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I didn't know when I wanted to get to this on the podcast, but I just feel like right now is a good time. I read something that you wrote, Jackie, and I put a wow, because I don't know why I didn't even think about it. And this is why, brothers, if you out here and you engaged in activist work and you engaged in revolution work, or you do anything, particularly to the brothers, to the Black men, this really applies to everybody, but particularly Black men. If you're doing work, but you don't have a Black woman in power that is also assisting in that work, and y'all doing this thing together, it's gonna be really pointless. And I'm gonna give you a good example. Jackie put a comment under somebody, I don't know who it was or where it was, but it was somewhere, where she said that we're talking about George Floyd, we're talking about Ahmaud Arbery, people are mentioning Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor is now kind of been brought along because of all of this, so that's that gender piece. But then you said, but we're not talking about the fact that the people who killed George Floyd, or at least the main guy who killed George Floyd, has been arrested. Ahmaud Arbery's killers have been arrested, but Breonna Taylor's killers have yet to be arrested. And I was like, in all of my everything, why didn't I get that? And I had to do some introspection and say, I don't, because of my gender, I'm not gonna see it. Right? It's no excuse. That's just something I have to constantly work with. But and my Black feminist thought has got to be activated like that. But that's why you need Black women around you to let you know, hey, don't forget, you ain't see this. You know what I'm saying? You ain't see this perspective. You know what I'm saying? And so that was just incredible to me. So I don't know if y'all just want to like speak to that part, or I don't know. That's just something I thought was really interesting. Is that gender piece around everything that's going on?
Yeah, when I think about it, I mean, I think a lot about we can't isolate any of these. We can't isolate any of these identity pieces. You know, on one hand, there are Black folks out here who don't have any video, whose killers will not be arrested, will not be prosecuted. Someone made a post and it brought Kendrick Johnson back to mind. They said this man wrapped himself in a rug and cut out his own organs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not something that is unique to Black women. However, I think in this moment where we're calling 3 names and calling all 3 of their situations equal, that we have to begin to dissect the different factors that lead to different outcomes in these cases.
Right.
And if we ignore that gender is one of those factors, then we're doing ourselves a huge disservice. You know, I think about in our move to Black liberation, it won't matter if some Black people are liberated. Like, we got to work for all Black people. That means Black women, that means trans folks, that means folks, disabled Black folks. Like, this means all Black people have to experience liberation. We can't just pick and choose amongst ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think another piece of this too, and just a more, I guess, tactical sense, is the fact that there is video footage of both of the other killings. And that makes it, because of this very, we're hyper stimulated in this generation with visuals. And we also feel like almost like visuals are what provide the evidence, because everyone now with the internet thinks that they're little private eyes and detectives and stuff, and it's just like, I don't believe it until us. Everybody's like
making movies.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, y'all, like, and so it's in one case, I think, because the internet is, you know, this time is a weird time in terms of, you know, truthiness and fake news and stuff, and so there is a lot of sensationalized information online, and so I think in order to even catch the attention, unfortunately, of this generation, a lot of times you need something horrific, and you need video, and you need a picture or something like that. And I would say, fortunately and unfortunately, we weren't able to see Breonna's last moments. I'm grateful that we don't have that footage, actually, and that is not some more, you know, what do they call it? It's called, like, I forget the word, but kind of like brutality porn or something like that. That's
trauma porn.
Trauma porn. There we go. That's circulating around, so that, you know, Breonna's family don't have to be traumatized every single moment that they see that footage of their daughter, sister, friend, cousin. And so I feel like that's a factor in it, just from a just like point of view of just looking at how media works and how media catalyzes us to actually do something, because people being able to see the video of George Floyd is like, you can't, it makes it that much more unbelievable. And the same with Ahmaud Arbery, seeing that footage, that's what made the story that much more, I think, for people. And I wish, though, I do think it's an interesting time, because like you said, Jackie, there's so many people that this is still happening to and there's no footage. So how do we also make sure that their names are being spoken in these times, and that they're being represented, just because there wasn't just that convenience of somebody being there to capture, unfortunately, one of the most horrible moments of their lives. And so I don't think the difference between justice should be footage or not. And that's kind of that's a factor in it. I think one factor is that Breonna was a woman, but I think the other factor is that she didn't have almost the privilege of her last moments being videoed.
But then it's crazy because Trayvon wasn't video.
It's true.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mike Brown, I don't think there was video.
Well, they had video of the body.
But they had video of the body.
You know, the picture of the body sitting there.
Right. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, it took, you know, Rodney King for
that video,
you know what I'm saying, video to kind of wake up. And I mean, I guess that just speaks to, you know, to the larger component of technology. I think technology has always been that piece that has been coupled with, you know, with movements, you know, or coupled with social issues to bring about movement. So you had, you know, Uncle Tom's Cabin coupled with slavery to help bring to life what was really going on in the South. Because for a long time, people lived so far away, they just thought, oh, they're just workers, when you have the civil rights movement and you have the onset of television and radio, which helped to bring about, oh, wow, now this is something we can put on cable TV and people can see all over the world how Black people are being treated in the South, and then, of course, police brutality with Rodney King, and now social media with, the same thing. So I think technology always plays a role in, or helps to play a role in kind of bringing to light and unearthing a lot of these issues. So yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about and really dig into was the protests, particularly the protests here. And I don't know if any of you were there or, a part or, saw any footage of or part of the organizing or anything like that. But a lot of it, people said, started out peaceful, and then, transpired into, they say violent. I'm kind of skeptical about using that term. Saying that these protests have been violent, specifically in Atlanta, and I was down there, and I was down there with my daughter, but we ended up leaving before it got violent. But I could kind of feel, and I talked about this on my social media, I could kind of feel the shift in the atmosphere. And there was a situation that had occurred I had saw between this Black woman and this looked like he was a Latino construction worker, and she was getting really upset. And so I went over there. I was kind of looking at first, and I said, I can't have this brother, talking to my sister like this. So I went over there with my daughter, and I was like, hey, what's the problem? What's going on? And she was like, I'm just trying to go to work. I know they got a protest going on, but I got to go to work. Going back to that class piece. You know what I'm saying? I need to go to work. I ain't got time to be worrying about it. I feel it, but I got to go. He went and let her go. So I'm telling the dude, hey, you need to, you know what I'm saying? If she want to go down the street, just let her go down the street. A white man come up. I'm like, he like, hey, what's going on? I say, she trying to get to work. Let her go on and get to work. And he was like, oh, okay, no problem. And immediately they moved and she was able to leave. And so when I was just kind of seeing that those things happen, kind of happening, I was like, well, I've been out here for 2 hours, let me bounce. When I left and got home and I got on my homie Deidre, her Facebook Live, that's when I started seeing it erupt into, graffiti on the CNN and cars, the police cars being set on fire and blown up or whatever, and all this other kind of stuff that was going on. That's when I started seeing that. And honestly, I didn't really feel no kind of way. I'm like, yeah. Like, what do you expect people to do? And everybody's like, but this is Atlanta, and this is, the place of Dr. King and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, y'all talk about this 1963 Dr. King. You ain't talking about 1966 and 67 Dr.
Right,
King.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And yes, he was about nonviolence, but y'all people sensationalizing Atlanta, and everybody talking about, well, this is Atlanta with the Black politicians and the Black mayors, and yeah, that's true. But this is also Atlanta, the home of T.I., the home of the trap. This is the home of the Red Dogs. This is the home of a whole lot of racism, a whole lot of classism, the worst levels of poverty, some of the worst levels of childhood poverty, some of the worst education levels right here in Atlanta. So stop making it seem like, oh, we're so surprised that this is going on in Atlanta when you ain't talking about Katherine Johnson, 90-something-year-old woman being shot in her house by the police.
And they planted drugs to try to say that they bought drugs from her. A 92-year-old woman.
I don't even know that part of the story.
What? In 2000?
Trash.
It was super early too, like maybe 2005, 2006.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So, and Anthony Hill and so many other people, and I know so many young brothers, they were young in like the 90s, they're a little older now, maybe 30s and going to their 40s, but they remember the Red Dogs. And they say, I remember when they used to just come up in our crib I'm home, just getting home from work, and they lived in the project, and would just drag them out, beat them, or claim they had drugs on them, and they didn't. So don't stop acting like Atlanta's just. Atlanta is a beautiful city. I love Atlanta, but Atlanta got some demons. So let's not act like.
And Atlanta is with
can't go on here just because you concentrated on the west side, or just because you concentrated in black areas and on the east side, and in certain parts of Decatur. Don't be mad when you, like I say, when you shake up a soda bottle and you take off that top, it's gonna spray everywhere. Don't be mad when the violence starts overturning into certain areas. You know what I'm saying? And that's assuming that the violence was enacted by black people. Because
I had so many thoughts on this. You want to go, Amber?
Yeah, mine'll be quick. I'll say this, that like Atlanta, this is, there is this beautiful history of, Black Atlanta in one way, right? And we have this rich hip hop culture. But then also you just like step outside of Atlanta. Atlanta is a part of Georgia, and Georgia has a whole problem. Georgia, we are also the place where the gubernatorial election literally just got stolen. Okay. Blatantly stolen from Stacey Abrams, and it's no way that can be justified. Everybody knows that you cannot run for an office and also be the person taking the ballots. So we have to recognize that we coexist, like all of these realities coexist. Right. This is Georgia. And also, like, even when the current governor, who I don't care to say his name or 45's name or any of their names.
No.
But current governor, how he decided to open up Atlanta and didn't speak with our mayor of Atlanta. I mean, he decided to open up Georgia, but didn't talk to Keisha. It's like, you got to talk to Keisha first. She's the mayor of your main city. Just the disrespect there. I cannot imagine that if there were a white male mayor that
would not happen.
They would not have been talked to, even if they were a Democrat. I just can't imagine that. So I just feel like this is also the place where all of that's happening as well. And also where all you got to do is turn down the right street and you're going to see Confederate flag. So it's not, I mean, all you got to do is turn down, okay, that street, Confederate flag, that street, it's like, it's all here.
So, I mean, I had so many thoughts about this because I have a very contentious relationship with Atlanta now. So yeah, I mean, like, I've been here off and on for like the last 15 years. So I've seen what Atlanta was like years ago in the last decade, and I see what it is now. And so I feel like me trying to figure out what my place is in Atlanta as a Black person kind of throws me off, because it's clear that Atlanta isn't as welcoming to Black folks and Blackness as it may have been at one point. So one, this idea that these protests are violent, like, you can't be violent against a building. You can't be violent against an inanimate object. Like, that's not violence. So, what is violence is like killing Black people in the street, like kneeling on their neck for 6 to 10 minutes. Like, that's violence. But these buildings, they don't say ouch. Cars don't say get off. They're gonna be all right. They can be rebuilt. Yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah. So to define it as violence, I also think I didn't go to these recent protests because I'm trying to be really vigilant about distancing and being really aware of exposing myself potentially to COVID-19. But what I do remember from other protests that I've been to in the past is that there's something that I always see toward the end of the night, which is this shift when white anarchists are there and being really destructive to property. And then that sort of destruction gets blamed on Black folks.
Absolutely.
And I almost kind of forgot it, like almost kind of put that part of it out of my mind until I saw some of it rising up again with these protests and people talking about like the violence and violence and the destruction that has been happening. And I'm just going to pay attention to how the narrative gets shaped over the next week or so, because I'm not fully convinced that Black folks are fully responsible for this sort of stuff. And I'm curious to see how the media starts to frame this sort of like property destruction when it becomes clearer that Black folks are not the folks to blame for engaging in this way.
Right.
But then, it's interesting to be here as folks invoke Dr. King. I lived for a long time in the old Fourth Ward. Like, that was my neighborhood. I could look out my window and see, I lived one block off of Auburn Ave, which is where Ebenezer Baptist Church is, which is where Dr. King's house is. It's where the King Center is. So, I was in that neighborhood where Dr. King grew up. And that neighborhood is all white now. You might have some Black folks here and there, but me moving back to Atlanta in the last couple of years, I couldn't even look at Old Fourth Ward as an option because it's too expensive for people who look like me. So when people invoke the spirit of Dr. King and the spirit of the civil rights movement, I'm like, y'all have sold off that dream to white folks who are committed to law and order instead of justice and equality.
That's right.
So I'm not even interested in hearing y'all invoke Dr. King from his block that he would not have been pleased to see his neighbors pushed out from.
Yeah.
So
Preach that.
Man.
Yeah.
That was I think that's a great way to counter, I think, what Sister Bottoms said. And I was just checking because I know I got people on live. We got a bunch of people on live, y'all. Like a bunch of
cool. Hi,
are they listening? Are they listening?
So I just wanted to make sure because my phone about to die. So I got that Teddy Riley. I got my Teddy Riley. So I just want to let y'all know on live my phone about to die. So I wanted to make sure I looked at the comments and I saw Tamika, I left a comment, really poignant comment, just about the abusive relationship, really, that we have with America. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it's true.
Relationship we have with America.
Absolutely.
Somebody else just talked about how Dr. King's dream has really been exploited and commercialized. And I think that speaks to what you're talking about. Like, this is the home of King, and this is the home of Nine. We should not be doing this. And like you said, no, you just sold it to the highest bidder. You sold that dream a long time ago because King would have absolutely been against the displacement that Atlanta put forth during the 1996 Olympics. King would have absolutely been against the hypergentrification that's going on in all these major cities. He would have, he was one of the most significant marches that he did. I think the one in Chicago that he went to that he said was probably the most violent one he'd ever been to was about housing. Like, that's what the march was about, housing. And to see that his own city is reinforcing these same ideas of unequal housing, but just along class lines as opposed to race. But we know that race is inextricably linked to class.
Exactly.
He would definitely have a problem with that. And don't get me wrong, I don't like to publicly castigate Black people because white people gonna be around and they're gonna try to use that against us.
Right.
I was pushing for Mayor Bottoms. I honestly think overall she's been a good mayor. I do think that. I was pushing for her. I've been to meetings with her there. When I was working with, I think it was Georgia Stand Up, when I was working with that organization a couple years ago, she was a dope councilwoman. She's a good mayor. She's done a lot of really good things. And I think overall she's good. But her response, and Killer Mike's response, I'm a huge Killer Mike fan. I love Killer Mike. I love Tip. Been rocking with Tip since I'm serious. So, I'm a huge fan. But the way in which you know, like you said, they're using King and they're using this nonviolence to try to downplay or try to, you know, shift this kind of conversation about what's really happening. I think I was very disappointed in that. I was extremely disappointed in that because, and I understand that you have a job, right? As a mayor, you have a job with the police and you work with the police, but for her to then enact an executive order, number one, they talked as if the people who were doing the violent part of the protest were Black, and they did that through very, very coded language. They were saying, "How could you do this?"
Not just Black, but poor and Black.
Poor and Black, because they said, "How could you do this to your city? We have all these Black mayors and Black politicians and Black police officers. How can you burn down your areas on the west side? Your areas," and then immediately Killer Mike was like, "I'm from this area." So he's talking about the old west side. He's talking about Black west side. He's talking about Black people. They're assuming that these people that's doing this were Black, and you could tell in the way that they were speaking. They didn't say, "Why don't y'all, you know, how come y'all didn't take this to Buckhead?" He's saying, "Y'all are burning down your city, a Black city." So he's saying that the people who are doing this are Black. When in actuality, I was there, I was watching it. When I was there were more Black people at that protest than white people, but white people were the ones that were in the faces of the officers yelling at them. It was not Black people, because we already know what's happening.
We got more sense than that. We not that's not gonna work out for us.
We were screaming, "Hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter, F the police," but they were in their face like, "F the police." And we just like, "Look, how crazy white people." Oh, we gonna keep on chatting, but keep doing what you're doing, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I saw with my own eyes. What I saw on my homegirls live, it was white people jumping on top of cars. It was white people spray painting the CNN building. And she said the people who started this were all white. I'm just saying it. She said, "Don't let nobody tell you otherwise."
Who said that? Keisha?
That's what Deidre said.
Deidre.
Oh, Deidre said that.
I'm watching it. I'm showing y'all.
So I guess
white people that's doing that. And so, but what happened was they assumed that it was Black people who enacted the violence. When Mayor Bottoms pushed that executive order for a curfew, what ended up happening last night was that Black people ended up, there was a Morehouse student and a Spelman student that ended up getting drugged out of their car, tased, flattened tires, busted this is what the Atlanta Police Department is doing, busting their windows, and they dragged them on the ground and handcuffed them. The boy is in the car shaking. He's a Morehouse student. The girl is a Spelman student.
Whoa, I've not watched the news today.
So Mayor Bottom's executive order are Black people because they assumed that it was Black people that enacted that violence. And so it's like, we're experiencing racism even in our protests. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, it's crazy. And so some people say, well, you know, they didn't have time to figure out who was doing what. Well, yeah, when you don't take the time to do that, that's what happens.
I mean, I guess that's what I would say.
In this Black city. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's horrible. I did think that enacting the 9 p.m. curfew was a bit hasty. But also I can understand where, I guess let me be more proper, Mayor Bottoms instead of Keisha. It's just I got a cousin named Keisha. I got a cousin named Keisha, so I'm like, I gotta say Keisha. Like, but that's no, it's no disrespect though. It's absolutely no disrespect. It's utmost respect as like being, you know, a part of the sisterhood. But like, I just feel like it has so much going on. And I really, honestly, just like you said, Don, like, I'm not trying to castigate any of my brothers and sisters publicly. I want to give them grace. I want to give her, I want to give Killer Mike grace. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they had to respond at a very emotional time. Yeah. Killer Mike was on the verge of tears. So was Keisha. All of them were just like, we're just trying to like say anything because both of them have so much investment in Atlanta, and I'm sure that they see things in a way that we don't. And I also imagine that they didn't have access to all of the on the ground accounts that were happening, so that they could actually see, you know, and understand like it was a bunch of white people, you know. And I just want to give them the benefit of that doubt, even though, you know, there's historical data and all that kind of other stuff. I think for them, and this is me making a lot of assumptions about what they believe, but just my hope is that for Keisha, who she's had to be the mayor of Atlanta during a pandemic. No other mayor in the history of Atlanta has had to be a mayor of Atlanta during a pandemic with a president like 45. Nobody. The amount of stress and political, like, I guess, navigating that she has to do is unimaginable. And then at the same time, being a Black woman in America, and at the same time being a Black mother of Black sons in America, there was a lot going on for her. So I commend that she even got up there, and she got her hair done grown out because of the pandemic. She's not able to get her haircut. She's committed to saying, like, y'all mofos need to stay home. I'm staying home. I ain't getting my hair cut.
I ain't get my hair done.
I ain't get my hair cut. She said, y'all little nigglets, y'all are going to sleep at 9 o'clock tonight. And that's what she said. Maybe it wasn't the best, but she was like, y'all going to bed at 9. It's a bedtime. Y'all better stay home. I ain't got no time for
school night.
School night. I ain't got no time. And so I feel like she was just trying to say, like, look, y'all, for real? I think that's what she was just like, for real, y'all, come on now. Like, I don't care if it was all of them. It's like, even the unfortunate thing is, it's the perception that it's Black people too. Not just from Black people, but from the other. And that's a part of the problem too. It's just like, she's even saying, like, we don't even want it to be perceived that it's Black people who are doing this. But it is, and I, honestly, I just want to give them some more time. I feel like they do it the best that they could do. I could say, like, there were some things that she was saying for sure on the part of the press conference that I watched. I was just like, I don't know about that. I don't really like that whole, like, nonviolent, blah, blah, blah. But I also have to respect that other Black people have different approaches to, achieving social justice. I just want us to be able to all do it together.
That's a topic. A topic in and of itself.
It is.
Because I firmly believe that this is not a one solution issue. It's not like, we all just gonna do this and then racism and anti-Blackness will be done. Like, it's not gonna work that way. Right. But at the same time, there's like something very peculiar about how Black folks with a little bit of stability and comfortability engage race and engage how we should respond to race. And there's something unique about Atlanta and about the sort of comfortability and stability that Black people have here. So I get that like engenders a certain response. Right. At the same time, like, I was made in the AUC, so I'm not gonna downgrade or downplay the schools. But if we believe that a certain sort of proximity to elite Black institutions, or just like elite Black business, like if we believe that proximity to that is going to be salvific in any way, then we are sadly mistaken. And I think that's why the story about the young Morehouse, I think he's a graduate. Like, I think he's like a class of 2020, just graduated like 30 minutes ago.
Nice. That's horrible.
Yeah, and
I didn't know about that.
And the Spelman student, that's why a story like that is such an important reminder that it doesn't matter if you went to one of these institutions. It doesn't matter if you're an HBCU grad. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, whatever, the mayor. Like, it doesn't matter. I saw someone point out that T.I. got up there and talked about Atlanta being Wakanda, but was arrested in front of his own gated community because they thought that he didn't live there, and he got upset by that, rightfully so. Right. So even T.I. and all of his face recognition around and name recognition name recognition globally wasn't able to be insulated from anti-Blackness, because we know for a fact, had he been a white man, he would not have been stopped trying to get into his own home. So, you know, I just think that as Black folks, we can entertain different solutions, but where do we push back against this idea that, you know, a certain sort of status will give us insulation from what's happening? Because it hasn't, and it's not.
You know, in this, I know we talked a lot about what's been happening, but also, you know, it's going to be I don't think this is going to be the end. I think this is going to be the beginning of an interesting summer. And so,
I agree.
You know, how are some ways as Black people that we can cope? How do we continue this resistance, continue pushing forward, continue to move towards Black liberation while at the same time not driving ourselves crazy? And I don't know, I guess just to kind of ask y'all maybe like how y'all do it. I know me, I watch a lot of comedy. I watch a lot of comedians.
Oh, that's good.
One of my favorite, I watch a lot of podcasts. One of my favorite podcasts right now is Lil Wayne's Young Money Radio.
Oh, really?
Oh
Lil Wayne has a podcast?
Man, that Young Money Radio is so good to my soul.
Really? That's great.
So good to my soul, man. I love it. But yeah, I watch, you know, Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Network. I watch Gary Owens' podcast. So, you know, I do that. You know, I try to, I don't know, Netflix a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Watching shows. I just got done watching Little Fires Everywhere. That joint was off the chain.
I heard it was great, but I heard it was dramatic.
Crazy. That was so good.
It was really good.
That's all about race and class. Oh, man.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was
I
good.
haven't watched it.
Yeah, so, you know, watching YouTube stuff and Netflix and Hulu. What else did I watch? I watched Glee, all 6 seasons of Glee.
You watched all 6 seasons
I
of
wouldn't
Glee?
have guessed that way.
I know.
That's great.
So one thing I want to do is, as we continue to move forward, I want us to start every episode with the what you call it?
Like a guilty pleasure?
Guilty. That's it. Give me one guilty pleasure.
Listen, I'll tell you, I watched Tiger King a few weeks ago, and that thing was the perfect mess.
I watched like the first episode. Me and my friend, we didn't even get through the first episode. It was just, I was like, I can't.
I was front and center. I was front and center for the mess. There was another one that was super wild on I want to say maybe Hulu, or maybe Amazon Prime Video, which that's a whole nother conversation about Amazon. But it was called Finders Keepers, and that thing made Tiger King look like a church sermon from
really?
Yes, just like a super regular.
Was this real? This was reality TV or what?
It was like a documentary.
Wow.
But in the first 10 minutes, I was like, this thing is crazy.
It's called Finders Keepers?
Finders Keepers. Like, don't look anything up about it. Just watch it.
It's on Netflix?
Like, let me look it up. You
can share it later.
I might have to tell you later.
I don't know if I'll be able to do it.
I'll let you know where it is.
Okay.
But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, I'm not even gonna don't look up the premise. Don't just watch.
You say it's on Netflix?
I don't remember where it is.
Okay, well,
I'm gonna text y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna text y'all. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that the things that you mentioned, John, are important. I think, you know, I was talking about this with one of my friends yesterday. He posted like this meme, talking about Malcolm X is in his grave doing the cat daddy right now, looking at everything going on. And, you know, we're just talking about how hilarious it was, probably because that moment of like laughter is just juxtaposed against this moment. But, you know, we just talked a little bit about how finding little snippets of Black joy is just so important right now. So spaces where you can laugh, spaces where you can connect with people that you love, or strongly like you ain't gotta love them, I guess. You know, doing activities that, you know, at the end of it, you're like, okay, cool, that was a good use of time. I'm glad I did that. I suffer from anxiety. And so, you know, for me during this pandemic, physical activity has been key to just like literally tiring my mind out so much that it can slow down so I can like sleep. So, you know, just being super conscious of the fact that not only are we in this moment of anti-Blackness, like acute anti-Blackness, but we're also living through a pandemic, and that is already stressful enough on top of everything that's been going on.
Yeah. For me, thank you both for sharing all of those. I'm not sure what I'll be checking out, but I might be checking out some of those. One thing that for me that I've been trying to do is find things to really like pull my pressure down, because I've just been feeling so much stress because of the pandemic, because of like I'm in a transition like career wise. Like I just moved back to Atlanta a year ago and still haven't been able to like get myself together. And so I'm just a lot of going on, and then trying to be Black in America at the same time. And so I've been really needing things to just kind of calm my nerves. That's why I haven't watched Little Fires. Actually, that's why I couldn't get through Tiger King, because I'm just like, because it's just like the world is so bad. I need something to just calm me down. And so like, even though this might sound antithetical in one way, but I watched this show on Netflix called The Great Flower Fight, which is basically like the Great British Baking Show, but with flowers. And it was just so fascinating. It's good. I mean, the first episode made me upset a little, but the rest of the episodes were great in that it's just, these people are so creative and artistic and just what they come up with. I just really needed to see that. Another person who I enjoyed, he has this really short series. I forget his name, but his Instagram handle is Bloom and Plume. And he's just this really magical Black dude who is a florist. And he has this show called Centerpiece, which is where he talks to different he interviews celebrities, various celebrities or like artists types, and then creates a centerpiece based on their conversation. And that is supposed to like describe their essence. And I encourage everyone to watch it. It's really short. It's on an app called Quibi, and you have to download the app to watch it.
I've heard of this.
And it has a 14-day trial, and so I'm definitely gonna end it like in a day or two. But I downloaded it just so that I could watch these episodes, and it was just so creative and refreshingly creative and artistic. I was just like, and you can watch the whole thing in under an hour, because it's just like really like short episodes. Minutes. Yeah, I don't know why they did it like that, but either way, it's just like doses of like fascinating Blackness, just the whole thing. And like he interviews Rashida Jones, he interviews Carbito. Well, I don't know what's the guy who does oh my goodness, my brain is going flat. His name is Carbito on Instagram, but what's that new fashion line that's out that's really, why is my mind going blank? It's the Black dude. He's like
Virgil Abloh.
No. Pierre Moss. Either way, he interviews him. Anyway, he just has some really good interviews on there, and I just encourage people to do that. Another thing, my friend just introduced me to this song by Janae Aiko it's called Trigger something. I can't remember the name of it. I'm just like, no, I just downloaded this song. It's called Trigger Protection Mantra, and it's called Trigger Protection Mantra, and it's just her saying, calm down. It's just like, I'm like, oh, I need this. She's just saying, calm down. And it's just, it is just so, it's very surreal and calming, and it's exactly what I needed. And I feel like those are, and also I go on walks. I go on a lot of walks. I try to listen to the birds. I've started trying to think like, I want to talk to the birds. I want to know what they're talking about because they be talking all the time. They be talking in the morning. They talking in the afternoon. They talking in the evening. In the summertime, they talk all the time.
Well, they talking about
what
us.
Y'all talking about?
They always be like, look at these people.
Yeah, and so I've been interested in like trying to get into like understanding different bird sounds, and I would love to know like I would love to begin to be able to recognize the different bird calls. And so that's just, I've really been trying to get more like grounded in that way and to really find peace and not things that actually make me kind of like upset.
Yeah.
So that's where I've been.
Man, that's real. I mean, we need all of that. I mean, we need all that. We need all of those, you know, just those things. Is just, and then I think it shows our duality too, because it's like, you know, we all about this, but then at the same time we watching Tiger King and talking to birds, and you know what I'm saying, watching every episode of Glee, and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't know that you like that kind of. Yes, because I like more than just, you know, blackity black. Like I like all. So, but I just, you know, I think it speaks to the, you know, to our blackness within, you know, within the larger context of just being and just being people. You know?
I'm so glad you mentioned the word duality, John, because that's what I've been grappling with, I think, the most, is the idea that incredible, breathtaking tragedy can happen at the same time as incredible, breathtaking beauty. And it doesn't negate either of the reality of either of those.
You better speak to that.
And it's like the sky is beautiful. Indeed. I cannot take that away from that. And that video of Ahmaud and the idea of Breonna's murder, they are heart-wrenching. And all of this is happening at the same time. Like, there are places on this planet, like the other day, I was again on the phone, one of my phones, and I was paying attention to this ant crawling on the ground. And I was like, this ant doesn't know anything about racism.
Well, was it a black ant?
See, that's the thing.
Black ant! Wow, black ant!
No, but then I started thinking about...
He might have been marching.
I can't. The ant was marching. Maybe he, she, or they were.
Oh my God!
But see, the thing is, I started thinking about maybe the non-binary ant. Yeah, I don't know what ants are. I mean, but see, ants do have classes, so I know they express classism because there's like working ants and like king and queen. So, but it's funny because I'm like, you know, ants got their own issues. They got to navigate classism or whatever. But I don't know.
I'm dead.
Community. But it just dawned on me, like, there's just like entire universes that aren't experiencing the things that we're experiencing, you know, and we're all coexisting, right? And it's just kind of crazy. And to just think that all of these, that's what it means to be in like this multiverse, right? It's just that they're like, everyone has such a different life, and I can't take away the beauty of something for the ugly of something else. And like, honestly, the only way that I can bear the ugly is to take a moment to recognize the beauty.
Right.
And it's just like, but then it's just like, do I feel guilty about doing that? Should I feel guilty about just saying like, oh, these birds, man, so pretty, you know, or while all of this other stuff is going on. And the thing is, I realized something that's been troubling me is the feeling of compartmentalization that I have more recently, to have to like the Ahmaud Arbery story broke, but I had heard about it weeks before, but I couldn't take it. I was just like, when it broke, it was just like, I remember the story because I read about it several weeks ago, but I couldn't take myself there. I read it and I looked into some other articles, do the search that you can do, and then to the point that you can get to the facts that I can no longer sit on, I just turned away from it. Right. And then when it came back around, I was like, okay, I guess I can engage more. But honestly, it was just like, I think even with Instagram and just like Facebook and Twitter, like how we have these timelines, we have these feeds, literally you can see a person dying, in the next clip you can see a cat, or you can see a new dance. And so it is like this thing where we're being forced to compartmentalize ourselves. And I feel like one thing that I'm really interested in is how interconnected everything actually is and how complex things are. But at the same time, I feel like now I actually have to compartmentalize in order to maintain my mental health, because it's just like, if I don't compartmentalize, if I don't accept the duality of existence, I will lose it. Because it's just like, this is ugly and this is beautiful. I have to end it there almost. And it's like, I have to go after that beauty in order to be able to digest the ugly, you know? But I hate the separation that I have to create within myself.
Right.
In order to maintain. I don't know what to do with that. And why, so that's one thing that I do feel like is really important at a time like this, where there are so many different opinions about how to move forward. I think we really gotta extend grace to each other and empathize with how all of us have experienced racism and oppression in our lives. We've all experienced it differently, depending on your class, your family, your personal background, your personal interests, your exposure. It's so many different things that can shape one's perspective about how to approach these issues. And I feel like I get tense when I think about how the more educated Black people sometimes come down on I don't want to even say more educated. I guess I will say people who have read a little bit more, or have experienced a little bit more, or have studied a little bit more, will come to those who have not studied and really just completely just be like, well, you need to learn, nigga, learn today. I feel like there's a certain, or to just say like, you know, that people are just frankly Uncle Toming it, when there in a lot of ways can just be a lack of knowledge, a lack of exposure and all of that. And so I just really feel like I'm sensitive to the language that we have about how we have these conversations going forward, so as to not divide our own community, because everyone is learning. We're all trying to figure out all of this stuff, and there's so much to learn. There's so much history that has not been written correctly and not been shared correctly, and that's just completely false. And even now with the internet, there's so much misinformation out there, and so and people are just, I mean, there's just so much. And so I know for myself, I'm still trying to learn a lot. There's a lot of people in the movement that I'm unaware of, you know, a lot of people who did great work, a lot of people who wrote a lot of important things that influenced other activists and other people from the past. And so I just really hope that, like, even with the Street Academy, that this is a place where people can be honest about what they do know and what they don't know, and that we just bring our full selves to the table and we're just transparent. But there's that grace there for learning. Like, learning, in order to learn, you have to accept that you don't know everything. Right. And so I think that's really important, to be able to not feel shame about a lack of knowledge. I know that's something that I deal with, especially like just with the imposter syndrome, just feeling, and having gone to get my master's at an Ivy League school. It's just like, do I belong here? Blah, blah. What should I know? What's okay for me to be learning? And so I feel like in a space like this, I really think it's important that people feel okay to know what they do know at that moment. And that, like, what they need to know, they will know at the time that is shared with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I want to say Malcolm X said that once. He said, you know, we have to be patient with each other, because there was a time when you didn't know what you know.
Right.
You know, I think about things I said when I was 19, and I was sure. Ooh. I was sure about it. And then I think 10 years later, I'm like, ooh, I said that. Ooh, I thought that.
Right.
Ooh, but you have grace. You give yourself, you know, the freedom and the ability to evolve. You know. And, you know, I really like what you said, Amber, about, you know, doing the same thing with making sure that we don't do that with people who might not, you know what we know, or, oh, you didn't know that, you know. And I can't stand when people do that. I hate that. Like, they just don't know. It don't mean that they not, you know what I'm saying, that they're not intelligent, or they just haven't come across it the same time you did. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Man, I want to shout out my boy Kunle for this shirt.
I was gonna say your shirt is real
Free shirt.
cute.
You know what I'm saying? So I want to go ahead and shout out my man.
Hold on. Let me take a picture.
Hey, I'm still waiting on my Du Bois hoodie though.
Listen,
That's
Can y'all let us know how we can get one of these shirts?
Yeah. So how can we?
I'm gonna have to get back to you. Oh, okay. Let me do this.
Okay, you can do this.
You know, you could go to Instagram, Freedope Creative, FreeDopeCreative. Freedope Creative, TIV.
Or TIV.
V is in victory.
Victory. Okay, it's not there. Okay, got
it. So Freedope Creative without an E, and you know you can see what you need from there. There's website links and all of that stuff, so you know people can get the gear that they need.
But yeah, this has been the first episode of Street Academy podcast. Co-host Amber K. Beasy.
Hey.
You know, co-host Dr. Hater over here in the building.
I'm out here.
This is it. Y'all let us know what y'all think. You know, you can tell them where they can follow you if they want to follow you on social media or whatever.
I'm at Amber Camila, AMBERKAMILAH on Instagram, but I don't really post that much. But maybe I probably will start soon because I want to start something related to relearning and relearning nature. So even like how I was talking about the ant, something connected to like all of that, like looking at this whole, like how do we unlearn all of these isms through nature? So something to come with that.
I like that. Y'all can find me at Jackademission, JACADEMICIAN on Twitter and Instagram.
Dope.
Where can we find you, John?
You can find me at J. Paul Grant on Instagram. I think that's me on Twitter too. What am I on Twitter? I'm either J. Paul Grant or I'm Bubba Stanks 07. that was in my undergrad. That was back in the day. But I was Bubba Stanks 07. You know back in high school you had those.
Of course.
We all did.
Sexy Redbone 08.
You got older, it was like, oh, I'm applying for jobs. I need to switch this up. But my sister her email was Duval Diva, and she changed it.
She still has it?
No, she's an engineer now, so she's like her whatever her professional thing is.
Oh, that's funny.
Like,
okay.
We ain't Duval Diva now.
I like that.
Oh man. So yeah, you can find me there, J. Paul Grant, and then on Facebook, JPGJAY space P, the letter P, space GE. Let me see what else. Oh, I might do a separate one for Street Academy, but right now I'm just filling it out, seeing how people respond, seeing how people dig what we're doing. I'll put this under my YouTube link that ain't really got no videos under it but one. And yeah, so I don't know. I'll put it up there. Y'all will see it on on any of these IGs. And yeah, just let us know what y'all think. You know, hit us up on YouTube. Leave us comments under the video if y'all like it. If y'all feeling it. If y'all not feeling it, if y'all agree or disagree with something we said or what y'all want us to talk about, let us know. You know what I'm saying? Because this is just what we're going to be doing. This just what we've been doing. So we're just talking about different things and bringing these conversations together. And yeah, I think it's going to be a interesting ride. So I appreciate all of y'all. I appreciate everybody listening and tuning in. And as we get into a groove and fit all this into our schedule, maybe we'll have a scheduled time in which we can record and put up videos. But right now it ain't no time. Just whenever we can sync our free time together. And then whenever I get time to edit it, and then I'll put it up, and then I'll let y'all know. So that's what's going on.
Hey. All right.
All right.
Let's go.
Everybody good? All hearts and minds clear?
We good.
I like
bye,
that.
y'all.
I like that. Bye, or something.
Oh, y'all want to say bye?
No, we don't have to.
Oh. Bye.
He's up, A-Town down. And then now you can like splice that.
Who else that you know got their feet upon? The neck of the haters, the game and the devil like came